welcome to the Fashion Shed. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to create this Yeezy Gap hoodie in CLO3D. We're going to be starting from a hoodie block, and I'll teach you how to create the form, the double layer, the ribs, the hood, and everything that you need to create your own version of this hoodie. Click on the link in the description. You can head over to my Patreon page where you can download both the starting block, and if you're super lazy, you can also download the finished file. So you could actually just completely skip this video and just go straight to that. But if you want to follow along with this video, click the block and then you can open up CLO3D and follow along with me. So this is the starting block. This is just a pretty standard off the shoulder, well, drop shoulder hoodie. With normal rib, normal hood, everything. But what we need to do the Yeezy hoodie, we need to simplify this. So we need to get rid of all of these features. So let's get rid of the cords to start with. We need to get rid of the internal hood for now, although we will be doubling it up later, but we just need to have everything very simple at this very early stage. Everything else looks pretty good. We don't actually need the rib. I'm going to show you how to do the rib later, but yeah, we don't need the rib. And also it's a cropped fit, so having that higher length is actually better. Okay, so I'm showing the avatar for now. Having the arms up like this will help us get the shape that we want. If the arms are down by the side, it's very difficult to see. So this needs to be a lot boxier. So I'm going to do, let's move this sleeve back up to beside it. The shoulders, we don't need them to be curved. We're going to delete the curved line for that, so that get them completely straight. Also, let's get rid of this. So right click and delete all curve points. This side shaping, get rid of that. And also, so these 3 points, so we've got the shoulder point, the underarm point, and the hem point. I want these to all be aligned. So align them to the left, and then I'm going to use the keyboard arrows. I'm going to click it out 3 times. So every time you do a click, that is 1 centimeter. So I've moved it out 3 centimeters on the back, either side, and then 3 centimeters. I'll do it again on the front. So this means in total, that's 4 3s, so 12. So 12 centimeters, I've made this hoodie bigger than the original. Okay, so that has already made that insanely boxy. But before we simulate, I just want to fix the sleeves. Because the sleeve is going to go even further down the arm, I've deleted the curve on the top. If you have a straight line going into a curve line, it will create a very strange fit. So we need to get rid of that and have them both straight. Now we come into the issue where, you know, the sides of these sleeves are at an angle, and the corners there, we need them to be 90 degrees. So this point here needs to be 90 degrees. It's currently like 78. I'm going to make these sleeves a little bit wider. So this point here is 77 degrees, which is not good. We need it to be 90. Because if you've got 4 points coming together at the underarm, we need them to be 90 degrees, or else it starts creating weird shapes. What I'm going to do is create this point directly in the middle, and I'm going to raise that up. I'm going to click on here to see what the percentage is. There must be a way of having the percentage on there constantly, but for some reason I've got to click between it each time. That's 90, oh, 89. That's 91. Ah, let's go a little bit further down, just a tad. So then I'm going to curve this point, and what that means is that that angle is still 90%, and I've created a nice curve across the top. There you go, 90.8. Okay, let's get rid of these underarm points. Oh, I didn't realize this is still curved. Let's get rid of that curve. Okay, so we need to look at the length of this part of the sleeve. So 238.5, and then I'm going to split this line here and put that point there. So we know that those points are matching. So sleeve and armhole are matching absolutely perfectly. The side seam length doesn't really matter at this stage because we know that they're symmetrical. So as long as we make sure that it's 2358. Okay. Yeah, just double checking those lengths. So that sleeve will fit into that armhole absolutely perfectly. Just realized that the sleeves are back to front. Let's make sure, so all the sewing lines, just delete those because we have to redo them all. So, okay, let's bring that one down. Those ones down. And top came down with it. There you go. So the armholes match perfectly. Just get rid of those darts, not darts, notches. Let's match these lines up. So the side seams are now sewn together, and now we can simulate. Let's see how that looks. Okay, we're gonna have to pull these out manually. We're just gonna change the particle distance up to 10. It was on 5, which is good for draping, but rubbish when you're working with that. So you'll see now. Only you should go down to 5 when you're nearing the end of your project. Make sure that the draping is fine, but at this very early stage, when we're trying to get the boxiness, change it all to 10. Okay, so this, like straight off the bat, this is looking pretty good. It's looking very similar to the reference image. Okay, so I think we've got a problem here. So the sleeve has a very, very slight curve, and it's got the 90 degrees. Now the problem is that the body doesn't have a curve. So the angles here, you know what I said about the 90 degrees? It's not working here because the angle of the shoulder point is off. So it's almost like you're trying to fit a straight line into an angle. That's 106. Let's change that. Let's change the, pull this line in. Now I need to do this on every single one. Now, because it's not all symmetrical and editing at the same, what I'll have to do is I'll have to fix this and then cut everything down the middle and then mirror it all. Because nothing's, see, look at that. So that's got the straight, that's got the curve on that side, and the other ones, so it doesn't dip down. I delete the last one or the other one, and then we can basically work on this. Okay, so that's my perfect sleeve. Just going to make sure that that is on the x-axis. Move this out a little bit, and then a bit more volume down the bottom. Okay, let's look at the hood. Now the hood doesn't cross over at the front like the current one. It's joined at the front, maybe 3 centimeters. So what we need to do, I need to make sure that we need to get rid of this overlap to start with. So I think the simplest way of doing that would be just to select these and delete them. All right, let's try that. Cool. See, the sewing line is still messed up and still overlapping. So I need to join those at the center front. Let's see what that looks like. Still a bit funky. What's going on there? Something to do with the sewing lines. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that needs to go to the corner point. And there we are. Now that they meet right in the middle, what I'm going to do, have a look at this panel. Bring that a little bit closer. Okay, so I reckon about 3 centimeters. So let's split that. Let's do 50. Oh, actually 50 looks about right. Okay, same again on the other side. Split, and then we'll do 50 millimeters. Now I'm going to bring that out. And I'm going to join or merge these 2 points. I need to have this so it's at the right rotation. So I'm going to rotate it. And I know that that is the vertical line. It's important to do that so that the grain and everything matches. Okay, so this is nice, but it doesn't look the same way as the Yeezy. So again, we need to look at those 90-degree points. If we get the curve line, we curve it like this. Right, let's cut. Don't need to sew because we're just going to delete that part. Because I want the upper side to be the same, I just realized that I've got to go back a few steps. Right, let's draw that line again. All right, 90 degrees. And then I'm going to copy and paste that. So Control C and then Control R to reflect. And then I'm going to put it exactly the same spot, select them all, and then cut. So that's good. So now the bottom and the top look good. The problem is this hood has a lot of volume in the side. If you look at the Yeezy one, it's actually quite close to the head. So what we need to do, we need to basically, if you imagine this was an actual garment, you would be able to pinch the material that you want out. And you kind of have to do that within the pattern. So here, there's so much volume that we don't actually want. So what we need to do, we need to create a triangle. Make sure they're the same lengths. Change this. Let's see. Okay, so you can see on the 3D, I made a massive pinch out of that. Move these down, roughly the same length. Let's cut those, and then we can merge those two together. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to just curve or smooth that curve so it's not a point. And I'm going to cut this. I'll smooth that back one as well. Okay. That looks so much better. Look how close it is to the head now. It's a much better fit. Okay, so I need to make this one symmetrical. This point's a bit strange because again, that should be 180 degrees. There we go. If I just left that, it would have just pulled a little bit on the center front and it would have made the whole thing look a bit ugly. Okay, so that hood is looking good. Let's make sure that the stitching is all on. So let's make it symmetrical. So I'm going to cut down the center fronts because the left side of the garment is perfect, whereas the right side, the sleeve and everything, isn't good. So let's unfold those. I never do unfold with symmetrical editing. And the reason why is because it seems to slow down my computer. So if you do an edit on one side, it automatically fixes it on the other side, but it makes my computer run so slow that it's almost, there's no point in doing it. Because if it's going to slow down your computer, then, you know, what's the point? You might as well just do it manually. Okay, let's just make sure all of these sewing lines connected to all of the parts before we hit simulate. And there we go. And then we just need the sleeve to come across, don't we? So that's Control C, Control R. And then again, let's just stitch the armholes together like so. And that's good. Just make sure that it's not colliding in any way. Okay, that's looking really good. So for the basic block, that's looking good. Okay, I think I'm gonna cut these arms out a little bit more. I just want a bit more volume around the middle. So again, just add in 1 centimeter equals 4 around the full circumference. Okay, that's looking good. So right now for the double layer. Now everything on this garment is double layer and the rib is on the inside. So what I'm going to do, select everything and then right click. And I'm going to create an inside layer. Now, a lot of people would just be like, okay, that's fine. Let's simulate. We're done. But I don't think that's the case. What it does is it sews each individual piece to the top layer, which is fine on the edges, but it creates this like bulbous look on the seams. And especially on the hood. That hood does not look good. That's not how it should look. And that's the most visible part. You can kind of see what it's doing there. It's like pulling it in to the seams. Whereas if you were to create a double layer of this, everything on the internal layer would be sewn to one another and everything to the external would be sewn to one another. And then you would only attach it at the holes or like the hood opening or something like that. So we need to do exactly the same for the sewing lines. Okay, let's simulate that. And you can see the hood. You see how that's better? Let's pull those out a little bit. You see it's no longer pulling in there. And it creates, well, what I'd say more realistic, but like that is how it should be in reality. So that's much, much better. Let's look at this hood because what we want to get rid of the normal map. And we want to increase the fold strength. Because I want it to kind of curve around. It shouldn't just be like this really tight fold. You see? And that helps with pushing the bottom out and having a bit of a bulbous look about it. Okay. Let's look at this. Okay, what I want to do, maybe 100 was a bit too intense. Get rid of all these, the thicknesses and everything. I want to get rid of this line here. Because this is not what it looks like in the reference photos. For some reason it's really awkward seam. I think one way of resolving that would be, let's look at the thickness of the render. It's 0. So, okay, so the thickness of the material is 2. So I'm going to change that to 0.5. And see that helps. So the thickness of the material when it was joined was too much. To 0.01, and that's completely got rid of that horrible seam line that was there. It's looking good. And the same will be at the bottom. So I can see like we've already got that kind of look, but it could be better. Definitely. I think once we change the particle distance down, it'll start to look better. So, right, let's go on to the internal ribs. Okay, so if we select the internal layer, I'm going to offset an internal, let's say 60 is enough. And this is where the rib is. So you can't actually see it. So the rib needs to be straight. I've seen other people do tutorials and their rib is wavy, which isn't good because when you're cutting rib, you get it on a roll. And yeah, you need it to be straight so you can fold it at the edge. I suppose this doesn't need to be folded at the edge, but yeah, still make sure it's straight. And I think this actually copies the hoodie a lot better. I'm just making sure that the grain lines are correct. So the rib grain needs to all be matching. Actually, let's just do all the grain on the y-axis. That's it. All grain is going upwards. So select the rib. So I'm just going to make sure that that's all okay. So you see how it's not create the same effect yet. I've got rib on the inside. What you need to do is the rib, you need to make shorter. So I'm going to strengthen that to start, just so it has dominance over the external fabric, and then it's going to pull it in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the width of this. I'm not going to do it physically. I'm going to do it on the shrinkage weft. So I'm going to bring that down to 60, which it looks fine. Let's bring it down a little bit more, I think. Now, if you wanted to create this as your own, if you wanted to print this all out, you could, because it should fit you. Well, it depends on what your size is, but when you come to this stage, obviously in the real world, you don't do shrinkage weft percentages. What you do is you make the width of that panel and you just shrink it by half at least. Depends how strong your elastic rib is. Okay, so this is creating exactly what the reference image is showing, which is brilliant news. I need to do the same for the cuffs. So let's change that. So let's change that to 40. Yeah. Doesn't look as good as the bum, but I think that's because it's not that much to work with. What I'll do is on the external, I'm going to click it out. I need to add more volume in the external. Okay, so the sleeve is nearly like just a rectangle now. That's how much volume is in this part. It's looking good. I'm just going to pull this up and let that hang down. Oh, that's it. That's what I needed to do. Just pull it up a little bit so that rib has something to grip onto. And the sleeve can drape over. That is it. It's looking really good. Okay, I think it's time to move the arms down a little bit so that they're in a bit of a better pose. That's good. Pretty happy with how this is looking. The sleeves are draping exactly how I want them to. The most important, like the chest and the back, is draping perfectly. Right, this hood, need to fix that. So the hood, let's strengthen this internal. So the inside of the hood shouldn't be pulling to the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the shrinkage weft, change it down to 97. Let's see what that does. I want to actually be pulled in. And again, in the real world, you know, rather than using this really quick fix of the shrinkage weft, you'd have to physically make the hood a little bit smaller. But this is doing exactly what I want. See that seam? It's no longer on the edge, but it's pulled in. Change the particle distance down to 5. Now that we've got like the basis of everything, we don't need to worry about pulling things left and right too much. Let's change it back to 5. And let's see the drape. Okay, let's add the pocket. Totally forgot there was a pocket on this. So, best way to do this would be, well, you could do it by your eye, but as we've got the reference image here, we can literally just copy the shape on here and then overlay that onto the pattern. These points here need to be matching. Align to the top. That's good. And let's put that onto the front. Oh, before I do that, I need to, that's an additional panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone as internal line. I'm going to put it there. Now let's unfold. Let's get rid of this. Rather than unfolding, I'm going to divide these. That means I can delete these points. Just don't need those points. And then I'm going to copy and paste and reflect them. Just checking the distance between the neckline and the pocket. It looked a little bit too short. I've made that a little bit longer. Copy and paste this and reflect it. And then if you right click and join the overlapping. So then do this, layer over. And then we can cut this. And that is your patch pocket. And we need to sew this back to, so these top lines need to be sewn. Sew tool. You have side bits here, but leave the part where the hands go in, obviously. Let's simulate that to see. Okay, we need to look at these lines here. So get rid of the normal map because that creates this weird effect. And what I want to do is actually change the thickness of this panel so that rather than relying on the normal maps, you're actually relying on the thickness of the panel. It looks so much better doing it this way. Okay, let's start adding the top stitch. So I had a few different top stitch basically on the block that I provided. Okay, here is the stitch. Obviously, you can hardly see it and it looks rubbish. So what you want to do is click on this, go down to the bottom and change the 3D settings. Change the thickness and the intensity. And that gives you an indentation. And let's change the thickness of the thread to 150. It makes it a little bit more visible. And that's looking good. Okay, we also need the stitch line on the arms and the neck. So same stitch line. Sure. And it's a cover stitch, so it would be stitched either side of the seam. Same for the hood. It's looking good. I'm really happy with this. Let's look next at the colors. So simple. It's a black hoodie. It's not completely black. Don't go all the way, or else you won't be able to see anything. Okay, just simulate that. I think everything's fine. Probably unstrengthen the inside of the hood now, just to give it a more natural drape. Okay, time to render. So open up the render window and do a quick preview to see what settings we currently have. Okay, so it's a square, lighting's not particularly good, and the resolution is awful. So let's change that to the 1920 by 1080. Click on the lighting setting, and I'm going to do high contrast. Lock the camera so everything's at the front. I'm just going to add colored background, or a very, very light background. Okay, so the inside of the hood is pitch black, which we want to see something in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of these circle light sources and move it inside the hood. See what that does. Make sure that you click to make it invisible. I'm going to change the radius to 30. Still want it to be dark in there. You don't want to look like there is a torch inside your head, but you just need a little bit of light in there. So that's it. That is the that is the block. I created this nice little walk-in render with it. Maybe I'll do that in a different video. Let me know if you want that. Like I said, if you want to download the free files, you can download the full finished one, or you can download the block. It's completely free. Just go on and download it. Cheers. Bye.